Higher?
A little higher. Yeah. Like that. Yeah. Okay. Sounds good.
Today is December 12, 2023. My name is Svetlana Ushakova, and I am interviewing on behalf of USC Shoah Foundation, Alla Rosenstein. We are in San Diego, California, United States. The language of interview, English. Hello, Alla.
Hi,
Tell me your name, please.
Alla Rosenstein.
Can you spell it for me, please?
A-L-L-A in Rosenstein, R-O-S-E-N-S-T-E-I-N.
What was your name at birth?
Alla.
What was your last name?
Schwarzman.
Can you spell it for me?
Schwarzman, no.
Okay. Do you have any other names?
No. You see, in Russia we have a not middle name, but name of my father, usually in passport. You know, like I was Alla Yakovna Schwarzman.
When were you born?
1933, October 20th.
How old are you today?
90 years old.
When were you born? Where were you born?
I born Odessa, Ukraine.
What country it was when you were born?
I born was SSR.
Can you tell us what is it?
So you no, I cannot translate. We call ourselves Russian, you know. We speak all Russian, you know, Russian language, not Ukraine. But as СССР, Совет Социалистических Республик,
It's okay. It's okay.
I want to forget this.
Fair enough. What were your parents' name?
My father was Yakov. My mother was Elizabeth.
Elizabeth. What was your mother's maiden name?
My mother's name is Kveitel.
When were your parents were born?
My father born January 20th, 1908.
And your mom?
My mother born June, I don't remember the date, 1911.
What do you remember about your parents?
My mother was very good-hearted person. She liked to help everybody. She helped us a lot when we were married. And my father was working he was a mechanic fixing sewing machine, work in a factory all his life from 16 years old until he retired. But during the war, he was in army from first day to end.
What was your mom's profession?
She was a secretary in the office.
Did you have siblings?
I had brother who was 5 years younger than I am, and he died when he was 40 years old from kidney failure. He was a scientist in organic chemistry. This, you know, affect his kidneys because radiation. He was accepted in Russian. The Jews cannot have a high profession or high position, but they invited him to Moscow to academy to work there because he was very talented.
What was his name?
His name was William. if you want his pictures, what around there.
Later, we can show a picture later. What were your maternal grandparents' name? Name of your grandparents from your mother's side.
My grandfather, my father's parents, my grandfather was Peter, and my grandmother was Anna. My mother's parents grandfather was Solomon, and grandmother was Celia.
What did they do before the October Revolution?
My grandma never worked. She take care of the children. But my grandfather was he worked in, how it's called in English?
You can say it in Russian.
Liteishik. He was liteishik. He all his life worked by, by hot oven, to make this metal stuff. I don't know how it's called.
Did your grandparents have any business before the revolution?
No, in Russia you don't have any business.
But
they make not, yeah.
Before the revolution?
No, not before, not. My grandfather, Peter, had before revolution, he had couple fruit stores, and after revolution they took everything from him, and he was, they took part of his apartment, they have 5 rooms because they have 5 children, and they put a whole wall and live for them only 2, kitchen in 2 rooms. But from the revolution, he never want to see anybody, when it's parade or something, he doesn't want, he close curtains and doesn't want to see that. He was very upset because he worked very hard before revolution, and they took everything from him.
What do you remember about your grandparents?
My grandfather, my father's father, was very strict. My grandma was very soft and plain person. And she helped, when we were in Ural mountains during the war. If not her, we'd be dying from starvation, but she helped us, not physically. And what another? My parents my grandparents from my father's side, they during the war they were evacuated to Tashkent, Uzbekistan, and my grandfather died there, and his daughter and his son from starvation. My grandma left with the family, and she came by herself back after war.
Do you remember what did your grandmothers used to cook? Did you have a favorite dishes from them?
Yeah, my grandmother, my grandmother from father's mother, she doesn't cook a lot because she was spoiled, because they were rich before revolution. She always have maid to help her. But my grandmother, from my mother's side, she cooked borscht, she cooked varenikis with potatoes, and stew, make gefilte fish. Yeah, she was very good cook. If she have with what, what to cook. Yeah.
Did you have any other relatives?
I have relative, my husband's sister. Mm-hmm. She live in here in north in California, and a nephew, her son. Mm-hmm. Now I have new relative from my my oldest son, parents and brother and sisters. But from my family, I have only my 2 children and 5 grandchildren.
Mm-hmm. Before the war, did you have aunts, uncles, cousins?
Yeah, I have aunts and uncles was killed during the Holocaust. The children killed, all their parents killed, and them killed. Yeah.
Did they live close to you before the war?
Before war, yeah, they were very, very close. We live in one city, and but most of them was killed. They don't have time to move when the Germans occupied Odessa, because they, I don't know if you know, it was very hard to take Odessa because it's a main port, and they took Odessa through the parachutes. One night they came, and they dropped the parachutes and they occupied Odessa from inside.
How long had your family been living in Odessa? How long did they live in Odessa?
My grandparents born, my great-grandparents born in Odessa, and I lived until I was 40 years old. Mm-hmm. We left Russia when I was 40 years old. Mm-hmm. I was celebrate my 40 in Italy in a way.
Can you tell me more about Odessa before the war? How did it look? What is it like?
Yeah, Odessa was a beautiful city, and we were in Ukraine, but everything was in Russian. In my school, and all the offices, everything was in Russian. We have Ukrainian language only like a foreign language in school. Mm-hmm. And it was beautiful city, was beautiful, climate like here. And in summer, from all over the world, they come because this was a kurort. Mm-hmm. And it was nice. We don't know better life, but we don't have enough money, enough food, but we were happy because we don't know better, Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was in school. I have a lot of friends. We celebrate each holiday. We dance. I don't have extra clothes. I had in the Russian schools. This time in Odessa was schools wear uniform, and we have each school we have different color. In this uniform, we went to party. We went to, we clean it up and go. We don't have enough clothes, but we were happy, mm-hmm. because we were children. Mm-hmm. Our parents was working and supply some food and cooking. But when I left Odessa, I was 9 years old during the war.
Mm-hmm. How many grades were you able to finish before the war?
Before war, I finished 4 grades. And when I came back from the war in 1945, I was in 5th grade. No, I finished 2 grades. And after I came back, because I don't have enough education in Ural mountains where we were evacuated, but I went to 5th grade in 1985. Mm-hmm. Oh, what do you say? 1945. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it was still, Odessa was in bad shape because when German left, they took everything, agriculture. They don't have all the factories. And for a couple of years, we starving too there. In school, when somebody have sandwich, we share, we bite, everybody bite separate because they all hungry. But, my father was still in army when he came to Odessa. and we have some, bad living, but something, surviving.
In which part of Odessa did you live before the war?
I live in the center of Odessa, before the war, and after we came back, we lived in the same place. We live 8 people in one room, 16 meters, square meters. Me, my parents, my grandma, and after I married, I lived with my husband until my son born. But we don't have place to put a little bed for him, We rented some terrible apartment.
Before the war, how many people lived in the same apartment?
Before the war, we live, my parents and me, and my brother, youngest brother, William.
Do you remember the address of your home?
Chkalova, 51.
And did you live in an apartment? Or
we live in a home, factory. When my father worked, they give him a apartment before war, it's a new building, and they give us one room in this building, and communal kitchen. We have we share kitchen and all this. You share with another neighbor, with another family.
Do you have a restroom inside the apartment?
Yeah, we had a restroom. This a new house was, My grandmother, where she lived, she used, down, outside.
Did Odessa have a lot of Jewish population before the war?
Yeah, Russia have a lot of Jewish people. 75% of population was Jewish, but a lot of people killed, a lot of moved and never came back. But we have a big Jewish population.
And do you know that your neighborhood was mostly Jewish, or like it was mixed?
Mix. Yeah. Some places a little bit not in center. They have most of Jews who live before revolution. But we live in this new house.
And do you remember your school's number?
Yeah, my school number was 68, and both boys, the same school, went, not in the same time, but went to the same school, and they have the same teacher what I had, because I came in 5th grade after war, Yeah.
Okay. What is your earliest memory? When do you from what age do you remember yourself, and what do you remember?
I remember myself. This day was the war, Second World War start, when we evacuate, from Odessa, and I remember everything. What on Ural mountains when we came back, I remember every little details.
What games did you play as a child?
The games was, we most of outside the games, because inside was no room to play. Most of, we play, how we call, прятки, we hide, somebody close their face and count 1, 3, 4, and we run different places, and after he have to, time to catch us and go to his place and tell 1, and after 2, everybody. We play jumping, rope and a jumping rope. We play. What we do when I was smaller, we have a wall in our court, our house court, and we scratch some powder and like stones and play store. We sell it, you know. Yeah. It was a happy childhood. I cannot complain. But after I grow up, you know, more I have to do myself and everything. This was hard.
Mm-hmm. Who were your friends before the war?
I have a lot of friends from school, and we get together. Because this is the same area, live close by. We walk to each other and play outside, most of outside, yeah. Mm-hmm. During the vacation, during the weekend. But school, Russian school, I think, compared to some schools, is very strong. You know, we have a lot of homework. We have, and I was a good student. Yeah, and the teacher were very helpful. You know, if some children have problem, fight or something, they work together with parents and they try to solve the problems between. They want peace. They want to have a peace in the class, not to fighting.
Were your friends Jewish or non-Jewish?
No, my friend, most of from school, Jewish and not, because I live in a really Jewish area, and was Jewish and non-Jewish, yeah. Mm-hmm. We have in our family a lot of, married non-Jews, and we were getting along very good, because Jewish is not Jewish is not religious in Russia. Jewish is nationality. We don't have any religious. I don't know. I just find a start when I came to this country. This means we don't go to synagogue. They don't go to church. The non-Jewish, because we believe in Soviet communist.
Did you know that you were Jewish before the war?
Yeah, I know that I'm Jewish, because it was when I grew up, it was 16. This is my passport. Mm-hmm. Was in in fifth line. It was Jewish. Everybody have their nationality in your mm-hmm. passport. Mm-hmm. And after I grow up, I really feel I'm Jewish, because my children was not dumb, smart children, but they will not can get to the school, to the universities, and this was make us to move, to Israel, because we want some future for our children. Mm-hmm. My oldest son now is semi-retired already. He orthopedic surgeon. My youngest son graduated from law school. He doesn't work in law, but he have education. Mm-hmm. We happy, because this was the reason we left Russia.
Mm-hmm. When were you a child, did you understand that there is Jews and there is non-Jews? Did you know that?
Yeah, I understand. No, between my friends, no. But when I start to, have my own, I married and, my own life, yeah, I start to understand, because my husband was very educated. He was a mechanical engineer with high master degree, and he was a manager, a big designer office. He was designer, and but he was only on the papers. He doesn't allow to sign any papers. He was not allowed to tell us what to do, but he was working. Mm-hmm. Was a man who doesn't understand anything in engineering. He was a boss. Yeah, then I start to realize what we're not equal.
Mm-hmm. What books did you read when you were a child?
I read children's books. I forgot the Marshak. I read, you know, a lot of children's book, and I like to read. I like to read until now, but I have problem with my eyes now. I cannot read, but I read only in English. I cannot write very good, but reading only in English. You know, I read a lot of books. You know, I just a couple years ago donated to main library 140 books. You know, which I collected, and I all went through them. Yeah, when I came to this country, the people tell me what easier to read, because I don't know any language when I came. And I read Danielle Steele. She write very, understandable. And I read all her book. As soon as come out to the store, I get it, you know. But I donated to the library, all of them.
Do you remember any movies that you saw before the war?
My father was very strict on this, how we grow up to us, because most of his life was in army. And we read only, you know, children's book. You know, we don't read any outside with children's book, and with big pictures, you know, and I had a lot of big collection of children's book.
Did you go to cinemas before the war?
Oh yeah. In Russia, we don't have a TV. It was only a couple years before we left, we have a little TV. But we go to every movie what come out, we go. And we live like 1 block from the movie theater where we live. We go to movie.
What language did you speak at home when you were growing up?
Russian.
Did anyone speak Yiddish at your family?
Yeah, my grandparents from my mother's side speak Yiddish when they don't want us to know what they're talking about. And when we came to Israel, we were not able to speak, me and my husband, but we understand, you know. And this was we get alone there. Yeah, but we were not able to stay in Israel. We love Israel, but we don't, because my husband is a mechanical engineer in Israeli. They buy it parts, you know, mechanical part. They don't make them there, and we decide to move because we have to start new life. You know, we came with nothing, with couple 2 suitcases. We have to, you know, help our children for education, everything. We decide to move to America.
Did your family observe any Jewish traditions before the war?
No. My mother-in-law, when I married, sometimes she made a Passover dinner, baked matzah in the oven, and closed the curtains. Nobody can see, and everybody whispering, you know, because you have neighbor. And if we had sometime we have Passover dinner, because my husband's grandfather was a rabbi before revolution in a synagogue. And they know, but my parents not. Especially my father, they don't know. My mother speak Yiddish, my father not. I mean, they never speak Yiddish in a house. Only for my grandparents. I understand.
So did your parents belong to any political parties or organization?
My father was a communist. And because if you're not a communist, you cannot have a job, a good job. But after he came here when he was 75, we, you know, sent him a visa and we sponsor him. When he came and he see life, different life, he tell, I was so stupid this all my years, you know, you know, to believe in Communist Party. But my mother never. My husband never was in army. He never was on when he was in school you know, the pioneers, he never want to put this red, you know, and some teachers was upset with him, but he never liked it. He never like it. This was another cause that, you know, we want to leave Russia.
Did you have a chance to become a pioneer? Or?
I was, because they don't ask you. They call you, put you next to each other, and put this red in. Tell.
So even your grandparents did not celebrate any holidays, any Jewish holidays. You don't remember that they celebrate Jewish holidays. Your grandparents.
Might only sometime Passover dinner, you know. It's not traditional food because we don't have what we want. You cannot buy matzah for Passover.
Do you remember, is there a synagogue nearby?
We have one synagogue of 75,000 people in Russia, in Odessa, but this synagogue far from the city. Once my grandma, she was sick, and she asked me to go to synagogue and buy matzah, you know, and I went 5 o'clock in the morning to stay in the line, took a couple tramways, you know, to go there, and there's one big room and it's all. They have Torah, but I stay in. Couple people before me, you know, they stopped because there was no more matzah, and I came with nothing. But she bought on a black market, you know. She liked to have, you know, something, you know. But we never went to synagogue. I only start to. I enjoy go synagogue here. When we came right away, you know, we went to synagogue. People explained to us and take us there, and we enjoy. I belong to synagogue now too. Belong to Bethel.
What were the relations like between Jews and non-Jews in Odessa before the war?
We don't feel any anti-Semitic through people, you know. We have friends, we have relatives remarried, you know, like married to non-Jew. And in school, I don't feel any. Nobody called me names. No, we were all together. But after Second War, it was starting, you know. But I still have not non-Jewish friend after war. Yeah. Nobody is now left in Odessa. Our relatives was one cousin, my husband's cousin, and after all the situation, he live in Austria now. So everybody left, die or left.
How did your family feel about Soviet rule before the war? What's their attitude?
We were grown up in this, and we don't know different. But when you start working, you know, and when you start, you know, connected to this, we feel very bad, you know. Special like low people, non-Jewish, sometimes when they drunk or something, they call us names on the street. Especially my husband, he was looking like, he would have Jewish face. He recognized right away. Why are you here? They tell, go to your country. Why are you here? But we were before them, you know, like I told you, like my great-grandchildren, parents born in Odessa.
Did you have any family members, friends that who suffered during Stalin repression or collectivization?
Suffering. My husband, like I tell, he was managed a big designer office, but was a boss on top of him. He not allowed signed paper. He not allowed tell people what to do. Like he tell one young man, non-Jewish, who came in, he taught him how to work, you know, design, and after if you're not happy, he tell, why are you here? Go to your country, after all. And nobody tell him anything. Nobody. Penalize him. But I'm not, because I'm most of the time at home, take care of the children in the house, and I don't have very close attached to this anti-Semitism, you know.
You were born in 1933, so it was just a year of the Great Famine, of the Soviet famine in Ukraine. Maybe you have heard from your family any stories about famine? Famine, hunger, голод.
Hunger?
Yeah, so
during the war, after the war.
No, it's 1933 in Ukraine. There was a great famine, hunger.
Yeah. You know, my parents, you know, feel, but they try to give us, you know, what they can, you know, and we don't feel, you know.
Okay.
But in Russia, not only in hungry time, you know, always problem with food, you know. You stay in the line for each little thing, you know, from fruit to sugar and butter, you know. You stay in the line. When I married, and most of my time, and I was not working, stay in one line and another one to have some good food for my children, for my family. Yeah, but life was tough, but we don't know better. And when we came here, people took us to the stores, you know. We were so surprised, you know, everything you can buy it, you know. Yeah, but we have a hard time here too. No language, no, you know, culture is different. I cannot tell Russian culture is very low. No, a Russian country, we have a lot of intelligent people, and most of Jews have high education. Hard to get it, but they try. Like when my son in school, especially oldest, we tried to give him a lot of stuff. We tried to give him music. He took violin because it's helped him to go to the college if you have something extra. And we try, some people give a sport, some, you know, like add it to, you know, to help. But university, college, you can go, only 1% of Jews, they take it.
Now we are going to talk about the war itself. And what do you remember? How did you learn about that the war started? What do you remember about the first day of the war?
I remember because, you know, we moved to Ural the first months when the war started because they bomb, you know, like Odessa in beginning. The war started 41 in June. You know, in the same day they announced war, you know, and in the radio. In the same day they bombed, you know, Odessa until we left. You know.
But do you remember how did your life change in Odessa, like in the first days of the war? What do you remember? Like, do you remember some sounds, some maybe feelings?
You know, we were not sleeping at night. During the day, as soon as airplanes, you know, bombed, you know, we can hear. You know, we go to бомбоубежище, yeah, and stay there until it quiet down. And this was my first introduction to war. And after we left, you know, my father was in army, but close to Odessa. He came and another couple officers, you know, and took their family, moved on a truck to village not far from the bombing, because we're not expecting, you know, the Germans occupied Odessa. But when they occupied, you know, we try, I don't remember which way, but we try to, they have organization who help you, you know, especially when you're fathers or somebody, men in army.
Mm-hmm.
And we move and we end up in Stalingrad, which when we came and we stay with our couple suitcase, what we have, stay on a railroad station. You know, the people from the village, they came and tell, you don't know some Jews, they never saw Jews. They tell, somebody told us, you know, the Jews came. My grandfather tell, we are Jewish. No, Jews with horns and the tail, but they cannot help us with food, with anything, but they were very good to us. They think we came from a different world and we were very intelligent. They all, you know, work in the farm.
Mm-hmm.
And when we tell them stories, you know, they open their mouths and they never was in the city. This is a small town. Name was Lady, Molotovskaya Oblast, you know, Molotov, a big city. Yeah, not far, 2 hours on a train. And they would respect us.
Mm-hmm.
We don't feel any anti-Semitism there. We don't feel anything, you know, besides starvation, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But they starve too.
Mm-hmm.
But they have something. They have maybe a cow. They have a little place where they, you know, in Ural Mountains doesn't grow a lot of stuff because it's cold in the summer too. But, you know, they have better their own. We don't have anything, you know.
Mm-hmm.
They put us in an apartment, on the basement apartment, on top, on the first floor, priest live
Mm-hmm.
with his family. We live down underneath, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Terrible, one room, it's cold and was terrible.
You mentioned that your father was conscripted to the army. When did it happen?
You know, my father before war, he have I remember a pink piece of paper, and he was writing, as soon as war start, before war, you know, you have to come with, you know, with sandwiches and extra underwear.
Mm-hmm.
And he did, you know, as soon as he hear, you know, war start on the radio, he right away pack and go from first day. After 5 years, he went from, you know, Ukraine with army to Berlin. And when he left the army, he came to Odessa. His factory was not working. We don't have money. He went back to army and he worked in a German prison. The prisoners. He was a commandant of German prisoners. They treat German not bad, what he tell us, you know, not like German treat our prisoners, but in Germany. But and this was in a couple of years he left the army and went for his profession. He continued to work.
Mm-hmm.
He worked until he came here, you know.
Mm-hmm.
He was 75.
Mm-hmm. Why did you decide to leave Odessa?
Now?
No, I mean, like when the war started. Why did you decide to evacuate from Odessa?
Oh, we did not decide because the Germans on the way kill everybody, especially Jews, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And but some Jews don't believe because they hear about Germans, very good thing, you know. They're intelligent, they educated. They don't believe what they can do, but everybody was killed, children and old people and young people. Mm-hmm. And this what we left Odessa and came back in 1945, when, you know, a couple months after the war stopped. Mm-hmm.
Who from your family left Odessa with you?
When we left during the war, my mother, her parents, both your parents, my youngest brother, he was 3 years old, and my mother's youngest brother, he was 16 years old. We left together. But my uncle, you know, the 16, when he was 18, they took him to the army, and he was killed fighting. He was not killed fighting. He was I don't remember how it's called. He went to the border and see how where the Germans, you know, close by, and came back to tell the, you know, the officers. But he was wounded during the day, and he died in the hospital. He was 18 years old.
What did you take with you when you left home during the war?
Yeah, we're not allowed to take anything. We're allowed to only put clothes on ourselves, and only gas. Everybody have to have a gas mask. We 2 bags of gas masks, because we were carry all the time until the Ural mountains, and it was summer, was July, and I put my fur coat because I want to take it, you know, we don't know where we're going. And some stuff what we put on ourselves, but we're not allowed to have anything carry besides protivogaz gas mask. But we never use it, you know.
So tell me more about your journey from Odessa to the place where you stayed, to Lady. How long did it take? What transport did you use?
In the beginning, after we left on a truck, you know, they put us on a train. The train was carry tanks, and they put us between tanks on a flat cars, you know, nothing, you know, only tanks around. And we were sitting there, and it was rain, was terrible rain, and they start to bombing because they know they carry the train carry tanks and all, you know, equipment. German bombed, and the train stopped, and they told everybody go under the train. We went under the train, but nobody recognized it because we were next to the paravos, and all the black, you know, the coil dust and everything was in the rain, you know, and we were black, completely covered with this. And in this, like this, we went to Stalingrad. You know, you don't choose where you're going, you know, you choose where they tell you to. And from Stalingrad, they send us to Ural, you know, Ural mountains, because and this was, we were there for 5 years.
How long did it take? How long was the journey?
We came. We left months after June. The war started in 1941. In July, we left Russia, left Odessa, and take us maybe 2 months in our, you know, journey to Ural. And there we stay until 1945. Came back. My father came and helped us, you know, brought us to Odessa. He went back to the army. And Odessa, like I told you already, was this couple of years was very tight with food, and we starving, and nobody. We had they give us some cards, you know, like, how you call them? Go to the store, present a coupon, and they give us a piece of bread and something a lot. I forgot to tell you, on Ural Mountains, we never see meat, we never see fruit when we live in Ural Mountains, because they don't have fruit. Very, very little vegetables, potatoes, you know. But we never see, like I saw, but my brother, he was so little, you know, he never see a pear, he never see an apple, you know. And besides, they give to people who work in farm, like a horse meat, because when the horse, you know, break your legs and they cannot work, you know, they kill and give it to the people. We cannot, you know, use it, because we took once and we cooked for a whole day. And afterwards, the house was smelly, terrible, and the meat you cannot eat, you know, cannot chew. It's like a rubber. Yeah, and we give it to the dog. Yeah, this means we never see meat for this all 5 years.
What was the weather like in this place? What was the conditions?
Oh, it's very cold. And we came from south. You know, when you go in summers, you have to have warm clothes too. But in winter, it's so cold. When you go, only your eyes is open. You know, all you know, around a shawl or everything. Only eyes, and on your eyelashes, icicles, because when you breathe, you know. And this, like this, we went to school, but we couple children, we 2 miles, 2 kilometers to school. We were walking on the railroads, because around a lot of snow, you cannot walk there. We walk to school. And in school, we sit in our clothes because it's no heat. And not a lot of times we went to school, because sometimes you cannot. It's blowing, you know, all this stuff. And I don't know. They tell when it's people starving, the lice. We were not dirty. We have baths and, you know, what we can. But this was attack, you know. Everybody have a lot of lice in their hair and all over. And teacher, once in months, she come with the scissors, and boys and girls, she cut all the hair, you know. You go like, you know, this, not straight. Yeah, but, you know, we survive. A lot of, you know, this diseases because of, you know, because of this, yeah. But we all survive, you know, our family survived. Like I tell you, my grandparents from my father's side, only grandma came back. Everybody was dead from starvation.
Did your mother have to work in Lade?
Yeah, she worked in a farm, collective farm. Most of the job was very plain. They don't have equipment. They don't have, and and she worked there. In summer, when I was out of school, I help. I come to get some mall. I don't know how it's called in English. Trudodni, what they give, yeah. And what we do, we hand you know, took the wheat from, you know, you see 1 carrot in 100 round, you know, you have to take the carrots from the wheat. And I work in summer for, you know, all summer to help a little bit, yeah. And my mother work in they have a grain cleaning. You see, grain have a skin on top what you have to clean before you make flour. And this was outside and was, you know, like they have to a hand, you know, move, and a pile of wheat, you know, from other side come up clean.
5, 4, 3, 2.
How did you, Alla, we continue talking about your life in evacuation in Lade. How did you and your family were able to get food when you lived there?
Because my father was in army, was an officer. They give us payok, a package, some piece. Each person had a piece of bread, and sometimes different, you know, rice or a little bit sugar. But that's all. But what we survived because my father sent us tobacco from Army. He was not smoking, but they give him, his friend gave him his portion 1 month, and next month he gave his portion. And for this tobacco, we, me, my grandma make a little bags from newspaper, put a spoon of tobacco. He went during the weekend, went to the houses, from houses to houses, and they give us, they wait for us because, you know, was no tobacco for people, older people who's not on the front. Some give a piece of bread, some give little potatoes, some give piece of butter, and we divide it up, you know, until we have the next one package. This help us very much, you know. Besides, they give us some from the city. They give us some because we were immigrants or somebody, I don't know how we call. This is what we survive. We cook, my grandma. When I was in school, we have a hospital not far from us. We went with another couple children my age. Collect potato skin from the barrels, what they make some for, you know, cook for the wounded, you know, the wounded, and put in the bags and come home and wash it and make some soup. If you have something, put it in, you know, like a piece of butter or something. If not, it was salt was too in, you know, not a lot. Put little bit salt in. That's what we survived all the 5 years.
How often did you get letters from your father?
Letters. Very seldom. Very seldom. Maybe once in a couple of weeks. Yeah, couple of weeks.
Did you get news from what happened during the war?
Yeah, we have. I think we have a radio. You know, Russian radio was on a wall around one, and we listen to the news. Or the main office called Selssovet. We go there and they tell us about what's going on. Yeah.
When did you understand that the war is coming to the end?
No, we never know. We want it, but we never know. Yeah, but we understand when they start to chase the Germans from our land, when they go to the, you know, next countries, you know, when they go back, you know. But yeah, even though with this way we know this the end soon.
How did the local people treat you? What were the relations like between you?
Very good relations. They were respect us, and they come, and sometimes they bring something. They know we don't have anything. We don't have any clothes and anything, you know. We don't have any. Yeah, very, very good. And I have a lot of friends in school. We were very together all the time.
Yeah. Stop. Yeah, just we need.
5, 5, 4, 3, 2.
So, were you able to get any news from the people who stayed in Odessa when you were in Ural Mountains?
No connection, no connection.
Did you know anything about what happened to Jews in occupied territory at that time?
Yeah, I know what happened to my uncle. He was in army not far from Odessa, and his wife was expecting a baby, and he came to help the baby born. And he came to help her to move, you know. But, you know, the Germans overnight, you know, occupied, you know, Odessa. He was not able to go back to his place, and he stuck there. And one, I don't know exactly the neighbor or the caretaker, you know, point to the Jews, to point to the Germans, a Jew here, and he was an officer. And they took him to the courtyard. They called all the people from the building, and his family too, and hang him on a pole in front of him. And they told, this be for every Jews who come here back. This be, you know. Yeah, and we find out after we came back to Odessa, the neighbor told my grandma, and I think she was about to have a heart attack.
Did any other your relatives were killed during the German occupation of Odessa?
Yeah, a lot of all my grandmother, 2 sisters and 3 children, and another one, you know, and another cousin was killed with little children. And my uncle's whole family killed. Her parents and little child died, just born, and they killed her too. She was a beautiful lady. I remember her name was Maria. Yeah.
How did you feel about that when you realized that your relatives were killed?
Very upset and angry, you know, very. But what I can do, cannot come back.
How were you able to come back to Odessa?
My father came to Ural and tried to pack us. Nothing was to pack because the gas mask we left there, and he helped us, you know, to took with us train or something, I don't remember, and we came to Odessa, and he left right away. And when we came to Odessa, we went to our apartment and knocked the door, and they opened. Somebody lived there, but they don't know who we are. But my father told, you know, this is our apartment. If you don't have place to go, and opened it, my father pushed the door, and we came, and for months we were sitting in the hall. They don't let us in the room. We're sitting in the hall and wait until my father went to, you know, to court or, you know. And after we owned 2 rooms before war, all the apartment. We don't have neighbors, but they give us only 1 room after war back, you know. But we were glad too, because we were, you know, 1 or 2 people have to sit there because they don't want, they took this in our suitcase out, and some go pick up some food and come back, and we eat like this on a suitcase in a hole on the floor. I don't know how we use the bathroom or not.
Were you able to get back your possessions, or maybe furniture?
No, nothing left, because you know, when we left Russia, when we left Odessa, we left everything. We had piano because I took some piano lessons. We have not very, very expensive, but we have some our stuff. When we came, everything was it was empty when we be able to go to our room, empty. And after neighbor told us, because when we left, they give some people, Ukrainian people, they give some our rooms, empty apartment. And when they left, they took everything. We don't bother, find it, how we can find it. It we had more problems, We little by little bought some old furniture. Yeah. We live, like I tell, 8 people in one room. My grandma doesn't have place to sleep. She went to her brother overnight, and in daytime she came back to our house. My mother and father sleep there, and I sleep on open up a bed, sleep, very crowded. It was 18 square foot, the room. We were 8 people.
How did Odessa look like after the war?
Yeah, a lot of destroyed places, but I was surprised. You see, if you know Odessa Opera Theater, the building is now first in the world, because the French built beautiful building, everything in gold inside. They don't destroy, they don't bomb, this building. And now too, when now Ukraine war, they don't bomb, this building, the opera theater. But was a lot of destroyed buildings, but people voluntarily work on the street, pick up some broken, pieces, and Russian people is very Russian, Ukrainian, very hard workers,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, work together and clean it up.
Before the war, there were about 1/3 of the population, Jewish population in Odessa. How was it after the war? How did you feel like, how many Jewish people left in Odessa after the war?
I feel sad because we live in peace with non-Jewish, and but some people, like when they evacuate, they still live there, and most of people who was in Odessa was killed, who left, during the occupation.
And did you know at that moment they were killed because they were Jewish, or like it just?
Oh, yeah, they were ghettos, and my grandma's mother was very old, and when they marched them on the street, I don't know, to work or to the ovens, she was fell, and she was not able to get up. And I don't know who, German or Ukrainian, come and kill her on the ground. And we don't, they don't able to pick up the body. I don't know. Nobody. I don't know where they bury her or something. We don't own anything, where bury people who died. Yeah.
Were you able to continue your education after the war?
Yes. I was in the 5th grade, and I continue, went, in Russia you can go, I continued to high school, and after I went to technical school, and for 4 years, like a college here. But we specialize in grain and grain production, like flour mill, elevator where they store the grain. And after I graduate from college, they said, this time they don't live when you graduate, you have to go to another city to work. They sent me not far from a city called, not far from Odessa, a city called Sumy. And I worked there for a year, and after my father have protection, some have a person who helped me to come back. I came to Odessa, and I was never worked more. There I worked inspection for grain and flour. I went to different places where they store, where they flour mills, and check how because it's very grain. Nobody knows, but grain is very, very hard to store and very hard to do it. Yeah, that's a big process. Yeah, and I wore this, what you see me in uniform in the picture. But when I came back, I married pretty soon, maybe in 6 months. And I have my son born in a year, and I stay home with him. But after he grew up and went to school, I work in a library. That's all. This was done with my profession.
Why did you choose this job? Why did you decide to go?
I don't choose it. I go where I can get. In this college, they have some place for Jews. They have some place, and I went because my children too. They don't. This is what we left Russia because they cannot choose where they're going. They choose where you push them in.
What is your husband's name?
My husband's name was David. In Russia, they call him Victor. He have 2 names, Victor, David, because when he was in army, his officers tell, you have to change your name because if you get to prison, they know you're Jews by name and you kill you. He give him the number and put in his passport. They give a new passport, Victor. Mm-hmm. And this was we call him all the time. But second name, he put it when he get documents after army, he put Victor David. Mm-hmm. When we came here, we had no Victor anymore, only David. We put. In Russia, it's David, It's a real Jewish name in Glass.
Did your husband participate in World War II?
Oh yeah, but he was 17 years old. They took him to the army because he wanted to go voluntarily because they killed the grandmother who he loved so much. The German, he tell, like young people, I want to go and kill Germans. He went to the army when he was 17. Then he was a anti-Semitic place, because was one Jew in all, and he survived only because he was very talented in music and dancing. He danced and entertained the soldiers. But one time he have a friend, non-Jewish, the soldier who he slept next to, and one time he told him, I saved your life because I don't remember the name. Another one have want to kill you because they have he was behind him, and he want to kill him. He was pushing his gun or something what he have, and they told this their commanders, they don't do anything to this guy. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and but after he went to front and he was wounded in leg, and he was one German was closed, and he push with his gun with his stomach. He have problem with his stomach. And after he came from the hospital, he went to Uzbekistan when his parents was there.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so he stayed in Odessa when the Soviet army came and he joined the army, or like it was different?
No. He, this is my father, but he went to college there, and after they came back, he switched to another college, and he graduated from Odessa College Institute, mechanical engineer.
When did you get married?
I get married in 1954. I was 19 years old.
Did you have?
I know my husband for a couple of months before we married, and he lived good life. He was 9 years older than I am, and he was a good husband. We lived very, very good together, raised the children. I was not working after war because I was busy with my children. It's 9 years difference between them.
How did you meet him?
When I work after my college, I met a girl. They sent me out for after I graduate, and I met a girl, different profession from my town, and we went for a holiday. 7th of November, the holiday, revolution, yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we went for a couple of days. They give us a couple of days, and we have a party in Odessa, and I met him there.
Did you have a traditional Jewish wedding?
No, we're not able to, but we have our wedding, and my in-laws, they have a summer house, dacha, and which they gathered this because my father-in-law was wounded in factory, his spine, and they give him like a present. And we have people on under the trees in the backyard. Yeah, we have and the chair. And my mother-in-law borrow white gown. She wants only for pictures because she doesn't want the neighbors see what this is a Jewish, this traditional, not because of Jewish, because of traditional marriage, not in Ukraine, and his uncle took pictures, which was not come out after this, but took pictures, and I went to the house and took it out. This was our tradition.
Mm-hmm. So, did you celebrate any Jewish holiday after the war? Did you observe any Jewish?
Not in Odessa. Mm-hmm. Odessa only sometime, Passover dinner my mother-in-law did. But it's not traditional. It's not kosher, not anything. Mm-hmm. But the rest of we don't know about. We don't know about any holiday now. When I came to this country, I find out, and I like it. Now Hanukkah, I like the candles and all this stuff, and I love it. After we came to this country, we live in Minneapolis for 6 years. There, people introduce us to Judaism, and take us to synagogue and to holiday dinners and all this stuff. This is what we find that our first introduction. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How did you feel when you kind of realize or maybe restored your Jewish identity? How was it for you to get again your Jewish identity?
Yeah, I was feel very, very pleased and very happy. Yeah, because I know here it's not all. They have something too, anti-Semitism, but most of you're free to do everything what you wanted, and you're free to enjoy what you wanted. Mm-hmm.
Why it was important for you to get your Jewish identity back?
Because I lost a lot. I came here to this country I was 40 years old. I mean, I never know about Judaism, and I'm very happy, especially my husband. Yeah, he told me, we don't know about kosher or something. He only told me, Alla, don't mix meat with milk. This is what he knows when you cook. Yeah, and he never take a shower Saturdays, every day, but not Saturdays. But this is his feeling, you know. Maybe this is not right, but he feel like he respect, you know. Mm-hmm.
Do you have children?
Hmm?
Do you have children?
Yeah, I have 2 boys. My oldest son is semi-retired, you know. He 68. My youngest is 59. Yeah, they grow up. They American. Mm-hmm.
What are their names?
The oldest is Alexander. We call him Sasha in Russian. And the youngest was Ilya. Now he Alan. Because the children have problem to pronounce his name. Mm-hmm.
Did you circumcise your boy when you were in Soviet Union?
Yes. No, nobody circumcised. My husband was, because his grandfather was, but not, no. Mm-hmm. We circumcised in Israel when we were there, both of them. Very hard. They went through hospital and all this stuff, but they wanted, you know, especially my oldest. Youngest doesn't understand, but he was 9 years old. But he went follow him, you know.
Mm-hmm. When did you immigrate from the Soviet Union?
1973. We were in Israel for 7 months, and we were in Italy for 3 months. And after Thanksgiving, we came. You know, this Thanksgiving, we celebrate our 50th anniversary in this country. My son make a big party in his house. I make here too, other day.
Was it difficult to immigrate from the Soviet Union? Tell me more about the process. How was it?
It was hard. First of all, financially. We don't have in Russia money in a bank. We have to pay 25,000 for my husband's education back. I still have a copy of, you know, the receipt. And we borrowed this money. When we were in America, we sent it out. Some people that we know from Odessa, they were in Israel. We sent it every month money. Yeah, and another thing, my oldest son was in the college, and they tried to persuade him not to go. They called my husband and they tell, why you take him? You know, he's such a good student and he have opportunity. My husband tell, no, we're going in, leave him here, we take care of him. My son, yeah, we left Russia. Because it was hard in Israel, used to without language, without, you know, it's hard. Not because it's financially, but it's change. Children was very fast. Take language, they are very fast and everything. Hebrew and after here, English. My children doesn't speak Russian. You know, they speak Russian because I want them to keep it, you know, but grandchildren, nobody knows Russian. My granddaughter, oldest, she took Russian in school, in college. She can read a little bit, she can understand a couple of words, but not at all.
Why did you decide to immigrate?
Why?
Why?
The main thing, we want for our children better future. We want leave the anti-Semitic country, you know. Especially my husband, he was we don't have money, we don't have, but somebody help us. But he want to leave. Soon we can. We left everything we have. No, I'm sorry, during the war. We took everything to Israel. We shipped it, piano and everything what we have. But we sold there because we need money to go to America. We don't have any money.
Can you tell me more what kind of instance of anti-Semitism did you meet in Russia? Did you meet in the Soviet Union?
When Russian or Ukrainian, when they have a chance, they, not all of them, I cannot tell everybody bad. No, we have very good friends. We have, like I tell you, we have marriages, you know, Ukrainian, very good. But when they have chance, hurt you, not physically, but mentally or with word, they do it. Like my oldest son, when he was in school, he was in musical school, play violin. And once he was walking with the violin, and his teacher, physical education teacher, met him. And she tell, "Oh, where are you going?" He tell, "I'm going to the school, you know, musical school." "Oh, you want to be a violinist? Jews? No, never, never." And he came home and cried. He was, he tell, what she mean, you know, what she mean? We tried to explain, easy word, what she mean. And like a drunk person, he always, if he see a Jew, he always tell, "Go to your country. Why I'm here?" You listen. They don't do physical, but you know they talk so bad about, you know, they upset, you know. And we Jews who live in Odessa a lot, you know, before they came to this country, that people who upset us. Yeah. But the government doesn't stop.
Mm-hmm.
This come from the government, you know. If you wanted, I give you an example. We had a very good friend, non-Jewish. She was a professor in institute, and when they take the test to accept to the to the college, they have people like judges, you know, stay, and everybody have a list with their name, and they put it what they wanted, like a minus, plus, and so it's minus, you know, you don't want them, you know, plus. And this was they did, you know, and she tell us, she was against, she talked to the principal and tell, "I cannot do this if a student's talented. You have to. So if not, you have to quit." And, you know, by Jew, they put minus, but by Russian, they put 0. No, yeah, and by Ukrainian, they put plus. This they know. One, can I tell you one little story?
Absolutely.
This our friend told us about this guy, Jewish from village. You know, in villages, they speak Yiddish, and they really Jewish. They practice. I don't know if they practice, but he came to college to, you know, get to the college, and he was a very talented, but he doesn't speak good. He speaks in Yiddish at the home, but he doesn't speak good Russian. In Russia, you take a envelope and the question, you know. He took the envelope and he tell, you know, this judge, you know, they told me in Odessa they don't accept Jews in a college. He tell, "What you talking about?" He tell, "You know, this formula doesn't go together with this. And he tell me, how you know it? I show you. And he started on the blackboard, put right formulas, and they all was so was
impressed.
How called? Was surprised, and after my friend tell.
Okay, stop.
Please.
5, 4, 3, 2.
Yep. Please continue when you said that they were very impressed.
Yeah. And my friend tell, I cannot put, minus to this guy. He's so talented. You want to let me go? He tell no, and he was accepted. This guy. This was not one case. A lot of talented Jewish young people, not able to get to the college.
Mm-hmm. So when you moved to the United States, please describe your life here. How did you get used to that? How you adjusted to life here?
What was hard in the beginning because of language, most of, and you don't know how to approach people, how, but if you try, we were so anxious to settle here and be like, that everybody, we try very hard, I never went to school because I went for a couple, we have a second language, because we went to school for a couple weeks and we were stopped because this time was a lot of Vietnamese in this school. And we were not understanding what they're talking about. Like you read one sentence and they read everybody one sentence. We don't know what they're talking about. We stopped and I went to work. I went to nursing home in Minneapolis. I went to nursing home, make the beds for people who can. And after another thing, I feed the people who cannot eat themselves. And I was enjoyed. It doesn't feel me very low. I enjoy these people and I help and they like me. When I come to the room, my work was make the bed, but they want me to talk to them and help them to dress because and I don't know any language, but some speak Yiddish, some not. But we not, I cannot tell fast, but faster than some people who doesn't want to, nothing to do with this. Yeah, and we start, and I find out work is best for language. When you go to school, you speak Russian at home, and it doesn't help. But I learned how this call, and after my children help, they went to school, they catch very fast. Yeah, it was hard, but we were determined to do it,
Mm-hmm. What Jewish tradition and holidays do you celebrate here in the United States?
Yeah, all holidays, yeah. Especially my oldest son always have some get-together, or when I was better, I get all the time, some Passover dinner, and I have books, and I know what I can do. Yeah, because I cook all the time now, and I cook at home. In Odessa, we don't have anything to buy ready to eat there. All the holidays, and I love it, If we go to friends, and friends coming to us for holiday. Yeah.
Do you go to the synagogue?
Yeah. Now I don't go very often because I belong to Bethel. This is not far from here, but I don't drive and go up. If somebody take me, I go. They're very on a hill, the Bethel. You have to go 100 steps, go up, but the car can come on top. But I go. I try to go for a holiday. Now if I feel better, I I belong to sisterhood in our synagogue. We get 1 month together, you know, and have lunch and talking, you know. I love it. I love Jewish life. I love. Yeah, and I never, and I happy I never can whispering about my Judaism. I can talk. When I have Hanukkah, I put, in Minneapolis, we live in an area, non-Jewish area, but they're very good to us, the neighbors. We bought a house there, and I always put menorah on a window to everybody know I'm Jewish.
How do you feel belonging to a Jewish community here?
Yeah, I feel very happy. I feel bad that I cannot go very often, but when I was in better health, I go most of Fridays, you know, for services, and I go for holidays, and I belong to sisterhood. We went together, you know, like we get together, you know, have a speaker, have a lunch, have a talking.
Mm-hmm. Do you receive any restitutions from Germany, from any organizations?
You know, I belong to this Holocaust survivor. Mm-hmm. They bring me, for example, for Hanukkah, they bring me some stuff, you know, mm-hmm. for holidays. They bring from Russian store. That's mm-hmm. what I like it too. And what now, you know, I have, you know, they come for my birthday, bring me sometime card for go to grocery shopping, you know. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love my, you know, Jewish communities. They're very good, you know. Mm-hmm. And I love Maya. And I love everybody. They have a Russian speaking Katya. First time she came to my house and talked to me. You know, they come or call me, you know. I feel I'm not alone. I live with myself, you know, my son coming and go. But I like people. Doesn't have to be Jewish, but I like people. Mm-hmm.
What is your impression of anti-Semitism in the United States now?
I don't feel anti-Semitism because I'm not working. But I hear from people, you know, you have. Mm-hmm. But I'm glad, you know, my son came to this country, my oldest son. He was accepted in college right away. He was passed him. For 3 months, he was sitting at home in his room in learn, you know. All floor was in books. And in 3 months, he passed he graduated from biology engineering. And after he accepted in medical school, in good medical school. Besides he orthopedic surgeon, but besides he a professor now, he going to teach in, he semi-retired because he have arthritis, you know, this is a professional sickness because, he cannot perform surgeries, but he workaholic, you know, he liked to work.
What is your impression of anti-Semitism in the world today, outside the United States?
Yeah, when I hear on the news, and some talk about Israel, bad stuff, I'm very upset. And I'm not born in Israel, but I love this country. I was there for 7 months. I see how they hard workers. Like in Russia, they tell Jews doesn't want to work. They hard workers, they make country blooming, you know, from nothing, from desert, you know. They brought soil to plant, you know, trees and everything. And they're very hard workers. And I feel bad when they have problems. This is what I feel bad. And I don't like when somebody tell, no, Jews not supposed to do what they're doing. How they can take care of their country, this war, not because of them. But I'm not in politics, but I feel bad when I hear this.
What helped you survive the war?
Help me my determination to live and to come back with my family and raise my children. Yeah, and this has made me going, because it was very hard, very hard. It's me, everybody tell, you are very strong person, because I have from 9 years old, I have bad, very hard life, but I live, I'm 90 years old. I have a lot of problem, my health problem, but I'm here.
How did your experience during the war affect your life? Do you think your life would be different if there were no the war, Holocaust?
Yes. Yeah, we'll be living, I don't know if we come here, but we'll be living, and because we don't know better, we live. I was 4 years old when I came here, yeah. And our children have opportunities, but, and I've been not losing a lot of my close relatives.
What message would you like to give to future generation?
Be strong and try to do what you wanted, if you can, and help people. And we help a lot of people, during the war and after war and here when we came. Help people, be a good person, good heart person.
Is there anything you would like to add? Maybe like we did not talk about something and you would like to add?
I'm happy I'm here, and I'm happy I have very good friends, and I have my Jewish community help me a lot morally, and a little financial, because I live on my Social Security. Yeah, my children help me too. I'm in good shape. You see, I have, this belong to me. I don't have any mortgage, but we work very hard with my husband to come to this.
I would like to thank you, and I wish you many years ahead, and thank you very much. Thank you.
I hope so. I have a lot of problems. I have cancer, active cancer. I have a lot of problems besides, but I'm here. And I don't think about it.
Yeah, I think this is the most important. Yeah, we will show some pictures, but we will stop now.
Can you record? 5, 4, 3, 2.
Alla, tell me who is on that picture.
It's my grandfather. He was in the Tsar Russian army.
What was his name?
His name was Peter.
Was it your paternal grandfather or maternal grandfather? Was it your father's father or mother's father?
No, this is my father's father.
Who is on that picture?
This is my grandma, my father's mother.
What was her name?
Her name is Alla.
What happened to her during the war?
She was evacuated in Uzbekistan with her family. 5 people, but she came alone. Everybody died there from starvation.
Who is on that picture?
In this picture, this is my mother's mother. She died in Odessa before we left to America.
What was her name?
Her name Celia.
Tell me about this picture.
This is my parents, my mother and my father. Father Yakov and mother Elizabeth. And this me when I was 3 years old.
What happened to your mother? When did she die?
My mother died when she was 49 from breast cancer in Russia, in Odessa.
What happened to your father? Did he
My
survive the
father
war?
died here. We helped him to come here, and he died when he was 82.
Who is on this picture?
This is my youngest brother, William. He was a scientist in organic chemistry, and he died from radiation kidneys when he was 40 years old in Odessa.
Who is on this picture?
This all our family, my father, my mother, my brother, and me. That's a picture took after my graduation from college.
Tell me about this picture.
This picture on a boat from Israel to Italy. This is my father, mother, my oldest son, and my youngest son.
So I think it's you and your husband.
Yeah. Oh my, yeah, I'm sorry. It's me and my husband and my children.
Why did you go on the boat to Italy?
There's no way to go because this time was a sickness. We cannot fly. I forgot what stomach infections in a country, and we took a cruise from Haifa, Israel, to Neapel, Italy. And after this, we went to United States.
When did it happen? When was picture was taken?
The picture is 1973 in October.
Tell me about this picture.
This, me and my husband, David, we on a cruise on a boat.
When was this picture taken?
This picture taken 20 years ago.
Tell me about this picture.
This is my youngest son, Alan, and me with his 2 children.
Tell me the name of
Alexander and Alan. Now, this is their American name. In Russia, they were Sasha and Ilya.
Tell me the name of your grandchildren here.
Yeah, this is what I just tell.
Okay, so this is your grandchildren.
My grandchildren.
Tell me about this picture.
This picture taken when my grandson Brandon graduated from school, from high school, and my son, his wife Vicky, and Ariel, Aaron, and Brandon.
Who is on this picture?
This is my grandson, Aaron. Take when he was 16 years old. 16. He was in a band, play clarinet.
Who is that?
This is my grandson, Dylan, when he graduated from high school.
And who was that?
This is me and my two grandchildren, my youngest son children, Aaron and Dylan.
Thank you again. That's
Okay.